A badge of honor. Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But that's not how it feels today, and the stress of the job is taking its toll, taking lives through suicide and post-traumatic stress injury. A Badge of Honor podcast features the cast of the same name, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno. Sam, John, and the team offer the first responders workshops through their critical incident stress management teams and mental health liaisons to offer state-certified T-COLE credit programs that save lives. It's time to smash through the stigma. It's time to heal from your injury, and it's time to back our blue. Welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast. Here are your hosts, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam. Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. And the exciting thing is we are powered by the Offbeat Business Media Network here. It's a pleasure to be with everybody. And if you're driving home with us today, it's going to be an awesome show, as is every week, because we're bringing you some critical pieces of information, whether you are suffering from stress, you are at the point of burnout, you are at the point of looking for resources. We welcome you, and we hope that you will be able to find whatever you need.
You know, when we talk about stress and burnout, Sam, first off, I want to send out some warm thoughts and prayers from our hearts to the FDNY in New York, who lost Lieutenant Allison Russo, who was just about 10 months away from retirement, was fatally stabbed over this past weekend going for lunch. She left her station house going to get lunch. She was in full uniform, and some random act of ambush or violence, whatever you want to call it. She was fatally stabbed. She was 61 years old. She had over, I think, 25 or 30 years on the job, serving the city of New York, and she died of her wounds. And something like this, we have to make sure that our paramedics and our EMTs who worked with it, because that's a close-knit family over in New York City EMS. I worked for New York City EMS before I became a cop, and they're a very close-knit family. So you got our hearts and our prayers and thoughts go out to you guys. Please, this was traumatic. This was somebody that was known throughout the city. She was a responder to 9/11. She did a lot. So a lot of people knew her, and are probably being affected by this traumatic event. So please don't let it fester or hide. Get the counseling that you need. Work through the process.
Yeah, New York has got a lot of work to do when it comes to the care and the paying attention to how people are responding to these incidents. New York hasn't gotten any better. No. When the pandemic hit, things were in total chaos. You and I talked about watch, the rates of suicide are going to go up, and unfortunately they did, not only during, but after. And now you have attacks on our men and women in uniform across the nation. It seems that we're going out there with targets on our back, and that is a cause for not only I see it a lot of stress from the family, because it's usually the non-uniform spouse is very concerned about their protector, their first responder going out there. Never expected fire department personnel to be targets of attacks. We watched that wave, right. Where now we got departments that don't go anywhere without body armor, and so it's taking a toll completely across every agency, and the, I'll call it the chaos, the storms, the unpredictability of what is going on out there is what our guest tonight, what she has been focusing on for more than 2 decades. She is dedicated to the men and women who wear the uniform down in Florida. She works with agencies across the U.S. And you know, a lot of people before tonight's show was like, are we going to find out about Florida? Yes, we'll talk about that. So without further ado, we have got Dr. Tina Jaeckle on with us. Dr. Tina, thank you for being with us.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. It's great to see you both.
Yeah, and Dr. Tina, you're no stranger to a badge of honor. We have collaborated. In fact, we meet up monthly in print with the Blues PD, Blues Police magazine. Guys, if you have not subscribed to the Blues Police magazine, go ahead and subscribe. They are nationwide. It is your one-stop shop for everything police related, whether you're looking for a new pair of boots to getting, I'll say, down and dirty and tactical with your mental health.
And you know what? God bless Mike Barron, because you know what? They just hit 250,000 subscribers. Big shout out to them, because they are now the leading largest police magazine in the U.S. So God bless Mike and all the hard work him and his staff do to get that out to our first responders.
Well, and thank you both for what you contribute every month. It's very important.
You as well. Let's dive right in, because the burning question is, how are you all doing in Florida?
Oh, wow. Great question. And thank you for asking. I'm in the Jacksonville area. So we were very, very fortunate. And, you know, it essentially kind of went around us a little bit to the east and moved off the coast a little bit. And of course, went up and hit around Charleston and that area, Myrtle Beach. But we were very fortunate and blessed. But
probably a little spotty Wi-Fi still over in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
So she may be cutting in and out.
But that's okay.
I can hear you just fine. It's probably John. We're just going to say it's you, John.
Oh. Was it me? Was it me?
I think so. I don't know.
I saw Sam, but Tina, you froze.
I don't know. That's a personal thing. Was it me? I don't know. We can talk about that later.
It's not you. It's me. It's not you. It's me.
That's great. But as you know from watching the media and seeing the reports, Southwest Florida is absolutely, it's catastrophic and devastated, particularly as it relates to Lee and Charlotte counties, and probably going to be, if not the most costliest storm that we've had in the U.S.
I can't hear anything.
Wow. And how is that affecting you in terms of you all deploying sheriff's deputies and other uniformed personnel down there?
Well, right now we are, right now it's search and rescue, and it's going to be for probably another week, but we're now 5 days out. So it's quickly, unfortunately, becoming more of a recovery situation. So it is, I likely will begin to do some intervention probably in about a week and a half. But right now it's all about safety, security, and so forth. But the death toll's rising every day. More and more teams, first responder teams, are deploying down to help. Sanibel Island is gone. I mean, it's essentially gone. Houses were completely wiped off into the water. Fort Myers Beach is essentially totally devastated. So, please, if you're inclined, keep them all in your thoughts and prayers. The trauma that the responders are going to encounter is just huge. It's going to be horrible.
Yeah, and I want to talk about exactly lay the roadmap, if you will, in terms of connecting the dots of trauma, because our brains are different. We process trauma differently. But you, me, and John know this is different.
It is.
This is not a house fire or a structure fire. This is not, you're responding to a convenience store shooting. This, in some cases, you said homes are gone. They're finding multiple victims, and the three of us also know about the exposure to water. And I want to get right into that. after we take our first break. So stay tuned, everybody. We will be right back.
All right.
Move freely, America, without medical restrictions or penalty. Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Move freely, America, with one voice, without fear of retribution, achieving a common goal, medical freedom. We the people make our voices heard by connecting with state legislators and engaging a constitutionally compliant medical Bill of Rights for all citizens. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America. My voice.
And my voice.
And together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
All right, we are back, and we are talking with Dr. Tina Jaeckle. She is with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department. She's been treating trauma and stress for more than 2 decades. And you are listening to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by the OBBM Network. Welcome back. We're jumping right into where we left off, talking about connecting the dots of trauma for those that you will.
Could I jump in real quick, Sam? I don't know
Sure.
if you could hear me or not. I see screens freezing.
So, nope, it's you, John. I think John's frozen again. So let's jump into that trauma conversation.
I keep freezing, Sam. I'm sorry. Can you hear me when I speak?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Because I keep freezing for some reason. I just wanted to jump in and say it's me. The Badge of Honor, we usually focus on the law enforcement aspect of post-traumatic stress. And I know, Tina, you work very closely with the fire and rescue companies. When we look at the trauma that they endure and are impacted by, we always see the law enforcement aspect of it with shootings and all the stuff they see. We fail to recognize that our fire and our rescue go through that. Right here in Fort Worth, we've had over 11,000 calls for service just in Fort Worth in the month of September. Now over a career years, that is a lot of training. Yep. Did I lose you again?
Nope. I can hear you.
I don't know. All right. Well, my screen keeps freezing, so it feels like I'm just talking to a blank screen for a second. But really, I mean, 11,000. All right, so 11,000 between house fires, car accidents, and rescues. Over a course of 20 years, you're looking at a lot of built-up trauma, a lot
Absolutely.
of stuff, and fire departments and EMS do not take the natural steps like the law enforcement counterparts do with post-traumatic stress.
I think that's very true. John. I think that the mindset I think is you got into this. So there is some expectation, especially when you go to those calls day in and day out. Now, unlike law enforcement, who clearly has their own type of trauma, fire rescue is expected to be first on, deal with it multiple times a day, depending on what type of agency you're working for. So it's an interesting mindset to study too, because when I started in this field, and most of what I do now is with law enforcement, but I thought for some reason that fire rescue would be easier to kind of break into, to get, more on the page with mental health and so forth. And in fact, it's been quite the opposite. I've watched actually law enforcement get more on the page with, seeking help and wanting those resources. So you make a very valuable point, John. And I don't think that we do enough for our fire rescue folks. I just don't. But again, there's some hardcore, stigma beliefs that go into fire rescue.
Well, we are running into the same things. We start a conversation with a firehouse and the captain or who's ever in charge, and then that conversation kind of fades. Check in, and it seems to just take a lot to get them involved. Now, whether that's because after their call, they get to come back to the firehouse and in a way debrief because they're all sitting around a table or cooking a meal or hanging out watching TV. Could be the reason. We have choir practice in law enforcement, but everybody who's been watching anything about the hurricane this past week, we saw dramatic video. I believe it was the Fort Myers Fire Department. I could be wrong, but doing some rescues where they're wading in water. Some of them, depending on the height of the firefighter, chest level. Their station house, the water was well up to the middle of the doors. Like I said before, talk us through kind of connecting the dots of that trauma and what we're going to see from those that are responding, law enforcement and fire, to what is going on, the rescue reality, recovery efforts.
Right. And I think where some of the trauma definitely starts is this mind shift from rescue to recovery. And I bring this up because there certainly is a sense and feeling of failure that goes on where you can't, it's no longer about rescuing, it's about bringing bodies out. And that is an extraordinarily difficult thing for people that have been deployed to do so. And I saw this with the Surfside condo collapse. They were very careful for a lot longer than what we might expect someone to survive a tragedy like that. They would continuously call it a rescue until it just truly was not physiologically feasible to do so. And then it became a recovery. But you could see the actual shift. So the trauma starts with the difficulty in accepting, the inability to save more lives, which, for a lot of people, this term moral injury starts to come up, right? This right. feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. And it may be that, they were told for whatever reason, maybe by a command staff or a supervisor to stand back or to stand down, maybe not knowing of the safety concerns, but, there are a lot of decisions, as that are made in split seconds that, can have tremendous impact on how someone perceives the situation. So
yeah, do you think conversations are happening pre-deployment?
I think they are to some extent, Sam, but I think there always needs to be more. I mean, there always needs to be more preparation. It needs to be on the front end. It needs to be on the back end. I mean, if they're gonna go out as a group, they're gonna deploy as a group, take the time to get them together, sit down, talk about this, and prepare them as best as you can to talk about what they're potentially going to see, what the conditions are like, etc. Give them the permission to say, raise a hand and go, look, I need to step back. Okay, that's the biggest issue, is that giving people the space to do that, even in the midst of this type of crisis. Listen, there are thousands of people with boots on the ground right now. If someone is not prepared for this or is not okay with what they're seeing, they have to be given permission to just take a break and step back.
I think my mind goes back to, and I'm sure John's with September 11th, right. And you're in this work mode, you're in mission mode, so it's so easy. You fall back to your training and you're just go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. And so while the brain is taking pictures of everything you're seeing, your body is not in the mode of I'll call it, the feeling part, right? So we're in our protective brains, and our bodies haven't settled down in order to bring that fight, flight, or freeze to a manageable level, where then I'll say this starts talking to you. And speaking of talking, we got to take a quick break. We will be right back with Dr. Tina Jaeckle. We're talking stress and trauma on the job. Be right back, everybody.
Every business needs a dependable junk hauling service to keep their property clutter-free. Call 630-470-8307. Junk Luggers offers a wide range of eco-friendly residential and commercial junk removal services to help your business run smoothly and efficiently. Book your no-obligation estimate with Junk Luggers today. Banks and credit unions have unique junk, and Junk Luggers knows the business. Professional organizers, senior living communities, we're helping everyone clean up and start new. If you're redecorating, remodeling, or getting ready for new tenants, Junk Luggers will donate, recycle, and do our best to keep it out of the landfill. Call 630-470-8307. That's 630-470-8307 today.
All right, you are listening to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by the OBBM OBBM Network. We are talking with Dr. Tina Jaeckle, and we started to unpackage. You're in the situation. The trauma is compounding. I call it your brain's taking pictures, but you're in the mode of just keep going, keep your head down. There's no processing. You're go, go, go. And then you get to a point where the body is, you slow down a little bit, whether it's taking a break for coffee, water, whatever, to eat. And that's when things may start showing up. You said it's okay. We need to make it okay for our first responders to say, hey, I'll be with you in 20 minutes. What about having the staff, the critical staff on the ground with them?
I think it's extremely important, Sam. I just don't know, for the next probably 5 or 6 more days. I mean, there will be some critical staff or some support staff, psychological support staff on the ground. But as far as, true debriefs or, group type debriefs, that's going to have to wait. I mean, we're in it's just complete rescue and recovery mode at this point.
Right.
So they do have though, there are individuals on the ground that are working with people maybe one-on-one if they need, just some additional support. But, you mentioned something really interesting that I think that's important to touch on a bit. And I'm a big believer in the neuroscience of what goes on with trauma. And I think that we have to incorporate that better in understanding and training our first responders and understanding what happens to them. But when you talk about, that fight or flight response, and when the adrenaline's going and the brain is on overload and taking in all that information, it's also taking in, sights, sounds, smells. It's warm. It's still warm down there in Southwest Florida. So, these conditions are tough. But you're absolutely right. And that all of that comes from, the part of the brain called the amygdala, which is, for lack of a better word, the animal brain, right? That's the animal brain. It keeps you going. And when you slow down and you're finally exhausted and that adrenaline starts to run out, then that thinking brain clicks on and starts to think, oh man, this is not good. So, I think, again, preparation on the front end, preparing these groups that are deploying, doing far better education is needed, and then debriefing them on the other end when they come back, but not just once. Right. Bring them together when they come back, have a meal together, and not necessarily do a formal debrief per se, but, feed them, let them start to wind down, and then have a formal debrief about 3 days after that, to where they've gotten at least some rest, because, they're still working on trying to deal with basic human needs at that point. So, again, this is, I don't think that, of course, Charlotte and Lee County, one of the things that's coming out in the media right now is, of course, the criticism against, emergency management, saying they should have evacuated sooner, things like this. Well, the challenge with any hurricane is
small nature.
I mean, and media, and it's, it's kind of indicative of the fact that, there are so many that have given up this right to self-determination, right? And just have everybody else tell you what to do. And of course, the media here was Tampa, and it's going into Tampa and Tampa Bay. And then it didn't. And then so, they did the best they could. I have to tell you, Governor DeSantis has been nonstop in the forefront of this. He is an outstanding crisis manager. And his whole team. I mean, the response is impressive. It really is.
Tina, did you see that news article? And Dan Bongino just had it on his show today. A CNN reporter tried to spin the whole evacuation thing with DeSantis, and DeSantis just went right after him and just turned around and was like, "Well, you guys were in Tampa. We didn't know." She was like, "Well, why did you evacuate within 72 hours?" It's like, because it wasn't hitting this part of the area for 72 hours.
Right.
So it is funny you bring up the media, because, man, it's just so spot on how they can flip things for their own agenda.
Absolutely. And I had to chuckle today because we, and I'll touch on what we're doing at Jacksonville Sheriff's Office a little bit. But it's there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of just stirring up the storm, stirring the pot, and getting people, especially with DeSantis, because he's controversial. He puts his foot down on a lot of things that people don't like. And, and I appreciate that. But
he's honest.
He is. He's very honest. I've met him in the past. He's very well put together. He really is.
Well, let's face it, he when things I'll say got really bad, but they're still bad, he dangled that big attractive carrot. If you're a law enforcement officer, come on down to Florida.
Absolutely.
We will gladly accept you. And that speaks volumes.
Sure it does.
Because there is a level of connection, and we've seen him out there meeting with law enforcement personnel, with fire personnel, with emergency personnel, with dispatch. Yep. I mean, you name it. He is in it. He is involved. He gets it. This is not just photo ops.
No, it's not.
It is really, he is really a person that cares truly.
He is, and his wife as well. Casey is Casey's on the forefront of this too, and she's helping with the fundraising, and she's also head of a committee here in the state that looks out for the welfare of first responders. So they really do care quite a bit, and but they're doing a great job in a no-win situation right now.
Absolutely.
So
Tina,
yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question, and I don't know if you guys covered this when I got bumped off.
Okay.
But when you're talking about the amygdala and the firing of the brain, and then once everything calms down, we're going back into the frontal lobe, right, where our active thinking is.
Right.
A lot of first responders can't get out of that mode, so we start misfiring in our brain. Right. And that's what causes a lot of the damage, because we stay in that hypervigilant state. We don't know how to get out of it. And then it skews all our coping mechanisms because we're not thinking correctly.
That's
right.
Correct.
Do you find that a lot with our first responders in the fire service and rescue service?
Oh, absolutely. I find it all the way across the board. I mean, when the brain gets to that point, it's called the brain becomes dysregulated. That's what it is. The brain becomes dysregulated. And that's the reason why there's been some success with EMDR, with eye movement desensitization reprocessing, is because it tries to regulate the brain, essentially.
Restart it.
Yeah, restart it. Yeah.
I just had to do with my Wi-Fi. Restart.
The reboot process.
Now look, we're working perfect.
It doesn't work for everybody, but I will tell you that, where I'm seeing some very positive things, and this will give me an opportunity to kind of talk about a best practices model we've put into place here at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. And Jacksonville is they're the 25th largest agency in the nation, with about 2,000 sworn on the street and 650 corrections. So big agency. And a couple of years ago, I had one of the training sergeants came to me, Sergeant Tony Batros, and said, listen, he was part of the response to resistance board, and said, look, our shootings are up, our numbers are up, which we've got violence in the city like every other big city. But what I'm seeing is that the officers who are in these shootings are not getting the follow-up that they need. And my role essentially is as an EAP type counselor where, I work solely with police and corrections for them. I fly very much under the radar. I'm on contract with them. I have my own little office tucked away, non-law enforcement related. They can contact me directly. I have no assistant so they can text me. They can do any of that. They never see a bill, and they can come as much or as little as they want, with the exception of harm to self or others. So I essentially become an embedded type clinician within that. I go out with ride-alongs and so forth. But so getting back to this idea, essentially, he said, listen, what do you think about the idea of creating a specific officer-involved shooting peer team where we put together this team of officers who've all been through shootings. They've all been cleared by the department and also by the state attorney's office. And I said, well, it's certainly an idea to explore. And I will tell you both, why I get so excited about it is because we initially ran it. We're in 21 and 20. We did our first, in 21, August of 21, we trained 13 officers who had all been in shootings. And, I screened all of them. They were hand selected and so forth. And what came out of this was something that I never expected. I knew that they were going to be able to help the new officers going through these situations. But what also started to happen is they themselves became a tribe. So they started to continue. They started healing each other. And I'll tell you both, nothing was more impressive to me. I've got that handful of moments in my career where I'm just stunned at the power of healing. But to watch a bunch of warriors sit around a conference table, with doors closed and confidentially talk about their shootings and what it did to their families for the first time was probably the most moving thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
And, and they bonded and they're very close. And so this year we added 9 more and it's absolutely working. So how we've set this up essentially, now this doesn't replace the regular peer support team, the CISM peer support. They still go out, they still provide information. But if it's a direct shooting, if somebody's involved in the shooting and they actually fire their weapon, what we do is we assign them one of the peer supporters, OIS peers, and they stay with them. They contact them within 24 hours. They introduce themselves. Again, and I oversee the team as the mental health coordinator and the training coordinator. And I get briefed on all of them because what I'm looking for are variables that may create difficulty or challenging journeys for these folks. Perhaps it's a questionable shoot. Perhaps, somebody was injured. We had one in which the canine was shot. Things like that to where, those things make healing more complicated.
Wow, that is fascinating. We are going to continue this conversation in one moment. You guys are listening to a Badge of Honor podcast on the OBBM Media Network. We will be right back.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
All right, welcome
back. Again.
Now, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by OBBM. We are talking with Dr. Tina Jaeckle. Dr. Tina, John and I have talked, it's been years now, to many folks that are involved with EAP, both officers and then practitioners. And the biggest gap we see when we're dealing with employee assistance programs is the cities continue to utilize personnel that have absolutely no clue what police officers do, what fire personnel do, what their EMS and dispatch do on a daily basis, yet they're put through the feeder program. Jacksonville Sheriff's Department by far has been the most successful EAP program. That is thanks to you and all of your hard work, because it wasn't always easy. You had to get that buy-in, but this officer-involved shooting program that you have is critical.
Absolutely.
Because, John, how many years go by? How many divorces do we see? How much guilt and non-forgiveness of ourselves do we see even after we've been told by the courts, by the department, you've been cleared, you're good? And,
when you bring that up, Sam, we have that mental health stigma on the trauma of the shooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to put, and it's the culture now, and it's the culture that we're moving forward on, is that the stigma of the department, or not saying Florida or even here in Texas, but I'll just say it, the Democratic states, where they put not only but the news media, the department, the local politicians are all going to put that officer under the microscope, or even a good shooting. We're going to uplift the criminal. We're going to make him look like the hero, and we are going to drag that officer through the mud, making life for him and his family even worse.
Yes.
So that weighs, and I think that weighs heavier on a cop's mind than a shooting does.
Absolutely.
What the backlash is going to be, right? Okay.
And the journey, the journey is, and I liken it some days to battle for these folks. They're going to battle their reputation. They're going to battle department because, their colleagues they've been working with are now going to have to turn around and investigate them. They're going to have to, Alexis Warhol basically said, policing is the only career essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, is that where they train you in depth, give you a weapon, tell you you have the authority to use deadly force when necessary, and then when you do, you turn around and become a de facto suspect in a murder investigation.
Right.
So
now,
yeah.
Tina, let me ask you something. I don't know if you read the statistics in Alameda, California, right? They just fired 46 sheriffs.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Because they failed an upcoming psychological exam. They were deemed not fit for duty. What are your thoughts on that? Here you have a guy who's done 10, 15 years as a sheriff, or even 20 years as a sheriff, and now he's got to take this psychological exam because the department says, oh, they never gave him help throughout his career, but now we want to evaluate you. You failed, you're fired.
Yeah. I think that it's an indication of a failure on the part of the department. How many of these individuals, there may have been a few that potentially truly were not fit for duty, but the bottom line is how many with assistance, counseling, and help could have turned around and actually gone back and completed that exam again and been in a different place. It should have been used as a crossroads to do better.
Right.
Exactly. And to throw the baby out with the bathwater, not to be cliche, but there are so many departments that are making the turn, that are trying to fight that. Exactly. Just we're not going to send you into an exam fit for duty. We're going to try to get you the help that you need. And we know statistics, are all over the place, whether when you have we'll talk about an officer that does get help and is absolutely fit for duty. We have that in a badge of honor with Jeff. He tells his story openly to chiefs, to assistant chiefs. Absolutely. Everybody knows the story. We're in a small town. You can be employed as a police officer, as a sheriff's deputy, and have that diagnosis of post-traumatic stress.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely true. And then you got this other side of it where it's like, well, no, if you have that diagnosis, you're out of here. Okay. And so that just is even piling on and going against the stigma that we're trying to squash. And so I know, Dr. Tina, you have asked this question. You have asked the upper management, do you want a highly performing, successful department?
Exactly.
The answer is always going to be yes, whether it's Jacksonville, 25th largest, or Little Town, Texas. The answer is always going to be yes.
Sure.
It's what you do inside your department that counts. Because if you're going to say yes, you better be willing in 2022, and this should have been going on for more than a decade.
I agree.
You know, that you need to step up to the plate. You are the leader. Be a leader.
Absolutely. And I can't say enough again for Jacksonville. And Jacksonville's just one of many agencies I work with. I work with the marshals. I work with several counties. I work with the USDA, law enforcement investigations. I mean, there are a lot of different ways of looking at this, but the one constant among all of those is they've all said, we have to do better for our folks. We have to be better for our folks.
Now, with that being said, you being able to get inside and look at all, right? Is that just like pillow talk? We got to do better. Do you see some doing better than others?
Oh, of course.
But where is that fault? Why can't we all be on the same level?
Sure. No, they're not. And I can tell you, I mean, right now, thinking of the best peer teams I have, I mean, one of them is a rural county sheriff's office, but I can tell you why it works is because the person who picks up the phone and engages with me about getting his folks help is the undersheriff of the county. So it's and what a statement to the people, to his people. That I care enough that I'm going to get this person involved. And he has flat out said, "Look, I will pay you whatever you come out in the middle of the night. You do whatever you need to do. Heck, they have a death penalty trial coming up where there were a murder of 2 kids, 2 little boys." And he's like, "I want you to block the entire week because I want you to be there for my people." Okay. Wow. So there are good leadership. Yeah, it's outstanding leadership. So yeah, they're on different levels, but I'll tell you, John, selfishly, I'm getting older. I've been doing this 23 years. I'm only going to work with agencies who truly got both feet in and they're going to do what they need to do. I'm not going to give lip service to the agencies that are truly not interested in doing it.
Well, see, that's where I see the problem is, the upper management, and we can call out the chiefs for their failure in their stress management, team, or the lack of. So it's actually the chiefs and the upper management and the political people, politicians that are really causing this havoc. So because if a small town USA department, right, can run these programs like you just said and be there for their officers, why can't a 40,000 member department like New York City handle it? They have the budget, they have the money, they have all the resources, right? Yep. But Sam, me and you spoke about this when de Blasio was mayor, right? They hired 6 counselors for 40,000. For 40,000.
You know what? We got to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk exactly about this because we're done with the smoke and mirrors. You're listening to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by the OBBM network. We'll be right back, everybody.
All right.
What is the role of American government anyway? Is the role of government to decide where I can go and where I can't? Is the role of government to work tirelessly to destroy vital infrastructure that keeps goods and services from my customers? Is the role of government to choose who can drive, fly, or ride according to mandated stipulations that threaten my body, health, mind, and conscience? Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Your voice, your feet, your vote, not just at the ballot box, but training to be a poll watcher, precinct chair, judge, or early ballot counter, so you're doing all you can to protect the fairly counted American vote. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move freely, America, because my voice
and my voice.
Together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
All right, you are back with Badge of Honor podcast. We are talking with Dr. Tina Jaeckle. And John, you brought up a huge point. And yes, we have talked about this, that it is absolutely possible, but the smoke and mirrors continue. You've got departments that want to say they're doing XYZ for their men and women. And when you go on the website and you click, John, I think you and I realized that not only were these practitioners, there were only 6, but some of them were not even in New York.
Well, and a lot of them were just out of school or just graduated. So they're getting their internship. They're getting their feet wet, with seasoned officers. And as a seasoned officer,
talk about baptism by fire.
Yeah.
Correct. But I mean, how could a guy, law enforcement, fire, paramedic, whatever you are, 911 telecommunications operator, right? If you don't know their job, if you've never sat in their shoes, right? How are you going to turn around and go, hey, I know what you're feeling? Bullshit. You don't know how I'm feeling. You don't know what I go through. You know what's in a book. You don't know the real life of this. We have to start putting counselors who have real life experience, who have the background, and I'm not discrediting any new EAP officers that are coming out or psychologists that are coming out, but we have to, for our first responders, we have to have seasoned people, 10 years experience, how to deal with this. There should
I agree, John. I think that, there's still a lack of culturally competent practitioners in this field. Part of the issue is that, I'm licensed both in the state of, I'm licensed in Florida, I'm licensed in Georgia, I'm licensed in Minnesota. I mean, most of the ideals that come out of a counseling program are really not, the personalities are not necessarily a good mesh with law enforcement, right? So there needs to be more mentoring. I mean, I'm kind of getting to that point in my career where I'm wanting to do more mentoring because, eventually I do want to go sit on a porch in the mountains and rock my life away. Right. But, God will tell me when it's time. I mean, so I still got work to do. I still got change to initiate, but we do. I mean, there's still a great need for people, but again, it has to be the right personality. Otherwise it's, it's tough. It's a tough field.
Well, what I'm looking at is like when I first came down here, I started getting counseling, right? And I went to, and God bless her, she lives in Florida now as well. She was really, really good to judge, diagnose, right? But didn't know my background. She was a family practitioner. She did divorce counseling. She did, the family therapy, with the dolls and stuff. She really didn't know first responder. Go
that's
hug
the topic of another show.
You didn't get hugged enough.
Saying dolls.
But you didn't get hugged enough. But, when we look at some of these people, some of the therapists who are in family practice, who are dealing with, out of control teenagers or husband and wife disputes or whatever, never really dug deep into the first responder field. But now there's an opening for some departments saying, hey, you could become one of our therapists and we're going to pay you a little bit more money.
Well, it sounds cool and it sounds sexy, but I will tell you.
We're going to get dragged out real quick.
I know, but we're putting the wrong people in the job.
You're absolutely right.
We're putting the wrong people in the job.
In some cases, yeah.
You're absolutely right. But
we can do more damage. We can do more damage to our law enforcement, our first responders than is good.
I just want to reiterate when we're talking about leadership, it doesn't, part of the challenge with EAP has been this traditional idea that, you have EAP, this is the number you go through, you call, the 1-800 blah, blah, blah. Well, leadership has to, no matter what size of the agency, can get very creative with this. And of course, one of the things that makes this successful is that I teach, we have a cradle to grave ideal there to where I get in front of every recruit class, corrections and police, and I teach an 8-hour course on PTSD, trauma, resiliency, family issues, financial issues, all of those things. And they actually get to know me, and they get handed a Gil Martin's book, and here's my card, right? And here's my direct number. And that blows them away. And then I explain the program. And so they have access from the very beginning. Then we offer family nights of the FOP, bring in specialized speakers, marriage counselors who can talk about communication, financial planners. I mean, all of these things to help them, especially these new officers who want to go out and buy that $60,000 truck because it's the first salary they ever had, right? But so. But in the end, so we're going back to, COVID kind of slowed it down, but we're now reinstituting the transitioning into retirement portion of this, and really, starting about a year out and counseling these folks and talking about identity and what life looks like beyond retirement. But, it's working. This OIS team, I've been very blessed to talk about it on a national level, and I encourage other agencies to do it. These peers, I do not take the place of peers. The peer gets assigned. The peer stays with them for as long as they want. It could be all the way through the response to resistance board or longer. I mean, they're building friendships as well. They are present during the viewing of the body cam footage where they actually go with them to it. They have to stay outside, obviously, for legal reasons. But as soon as they come out from viewing it, they are there for them. They will go take them to have a cup of coffee. They will help them go through that. And if any of these officers need more, especially in terms of counseling, and perhaps even, what we call RTEP, recent traumatic episode protocol, which is an EMDR approach, then essentially they will refer them to me, and then I just simply come alongside them and provide the additional support. But we're starting the counseling process very quickly after the shootings.
Let me ask you
this is fantastic, and we got to wrap up right now. I put the way to reach you.
Thank you.
Up on the screen. You're at Dr. Tina Jaeckle on LinkedIn. That is the best way to reach you. And for those of you guys who are listening, again, go on to LinkedIn. The best way to reach Dr. Tina, LinkedIn.com, and it's at Dr. Tina Jaeckle. You can reach out, connect with her there, and she is a wealth of information. As you have heard this entire hour with the Badge of Honor podcast, she's been through it, most of the time for the better, sometimes for the worse, but that's where the learning comes from. That's where the growth comes from. And she is a national leader when it comes to mental health and law enforcement. So, guys, the worst thing you can do is do nothing.
One quick question. I got one quick question.
22 seconds.
All right. Are we teaching our officers, our general staff, our general officers, how to recognize the signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress and the differencing when
She is.
No, but you're not there. Are we training our officers fully how to recognize?
Not as well as we should. No.
Right. The great last word.
Always do better. Do better.
That is true. We can always do better with everything. Thank you, Dr. Tina.
Thank you so much
for being with us tonight. Again, folks, reach out to her directly through LinkedIn at Dr. Tina Jaeckle. Tina, we'll see you in print.
Absolutely.
Later on this month.
John,
thank you so much.
Take care.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
God bless.
You too.
All right. Well, we have had an incredible show tonight. Again, wealth of information. Reach out to Dr. Tina. We thank her so much. We just got off Suicide Prevention Month. We are going into another jam-packed month. PTSD 911 movie poster, the official poster, was premiered the other day. If you want to get tickets to the premiere, which is next month, November 3rd, go ahead to PTSD911movie.com. And I saw that if you purchase tickets, you also get one of those posters. And let me tell you, it is kick ass. We will be all over the place doing what we do here at A Badge of Honor. Coming up the 14th through the 18th is the International Association of Chiefs of Police right here in Dallas. Thank you, IACP, for coming in our backyard. The entire conference is the 14th through the 18th. The vendor showcase, where we have a chance to meet and greet and talk about how we can bring tried and true strategies, tactics, and tools to you and your department. That's the 16th through the 18th. And it's at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. You can just Google IACP Dallas and find out the full schedule. Now, John, you and I have talked about the 22nd of every month is Walk the Bridge. We are bringing awareness to this suicide epidemic plaguing our first responders as well as our veterans. Okay, you can participate on a bridge near you. How? Very simple. You are going to go to walkthebridge.org. Again, that's walkthebridge.org. You can see where the bridges are that we're walking on the 22nd. Hey, you can even start one of your own. It's a way to give back, but more, it's a way to connect. And that's what we're doing. And this October here in the Rowlett Rockwall, this October 22nd is going to be super special because we're hitting you twice that day. Healing all day. We're going to start in the morning with Heroes on the Water, our amazing partners. We're going to push off at a Paddle Point Park in Rowlett. We only have 10 boats available for first responders and first responder families. If your butt wants to be in one of those boats to do some kayak fishing and healing, reach out to us at a badge of honor. There's an email, way to email us. Tell us, I want one of those boats. We will get you on the list and secure that for you. And then at 6:30 p.m. that evening, we will be doing Walk the Bridge from Rockwall halfway to Rowlett and back. Now, we've also got, we've got October 10th. I almost forgot. World Mental Health Day. We're out at Grand Prairie PD with our partners at Axon. Thank you, Axon. Check out axon.com. That's AXON.com for information on how to become part of and take advantage of their incredible roadshow and the VR treatment that they're doing for wellness. So we'll be out at Grand Prairie PD on the 10th. And then on November 11th, a badge of honor, we have our 8-hour workshop being sponsored by the Garland Police Department. We have already got departments signing people up. You want to get in on this. Dr. Tina hit on key factors, and it's that awareness piece. We're going to give that to you. We're going to tell you how to handle your stress if it comes up. You're going to hear from first responders. You're going to hear from us and our stories of how we have persevered and gained resilience with our mental health issues. So that's Friday, November 11th at the Garland Police Department. And, to all of those first responders and veterans out there battling, you are not alone. We hear you. We hear you here on a Badge of Honor podcast powered by OBBM. John, take us home.
Man, I just want to send our prayers, thoughts and prayers to the FDNY family over in New York. And you know what? Reach out, talk to somebody. And once again, with the Walk the Bridge on the 22nd of every month in Rowlett, not only are you going to be doing Heroes on the Water, you're going to be walking the bridge, but Mission 22 is going to be coming in from Montana, doing the movie night at the bridge after the walk and showing their released Mission 22. It does not have to be a bridge that you walk every month. It could be a trail. Montana has no bridges, and they are been walking a nice 1.1 out, 1.1 back for a 2.2 miles walk. So visit hashtag Walk the Bridge, walkthebridge.org for further details. Until then, if you could be anything in this world, please be kind.
See you next week, everybody. Take care.
Take care.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.